one last thing I thought would be good to show is kind of looking at how the actual card is created in your hub. So you see I've gone into one of the VMware built-in ones that were already there and kind of installed it into my folder to kind of take a look at it and see if I want to modify it and redeploy it. So what you do here is you go into processes, and so you can see here is I found the process for the actual creation of the card, the Adobe eSign card. And what the card actually looks like is this here, as you can see. It shows how it's laid out and everything. Now let's just talk about this a little bit. So in this section here, you can see here is it pulls all these are all the details it has in JSON format from Adobe Sign for a contract that needs to be signed. So it has like the agreement ID and the name and the message, all this stuff here. And then in the middle here are the functions. So you have different functions. Like this function creates the attachment URL, which it has in here, where that it's actually linking to that form. You have things like appending strings and date formatting, getting process properties, and then the stuff that really matters here, as you'll see, is the actual command that creates the card itself, which can be a little confusing, but once you start looking at an actual card, it starts to make a lot more sense. So you'll see here, this section here, the header, represents the header, which you can see here. It says title, Adobe Sign, signature required. And then if we go back and we look at this, you can see, there's that header, Adobe signature, sign, signature required. Then these are different kind of objects, attributes that could be within it. You can see here is that there's a link to the image logo. And what you can do is when you hit the drop down, if you hit show mapping, it actually shows what it's linking to. And so if we move away from the header and we look at something like the body, which gets interesting, it shows you different objects and fields. And then you can see here is it creates an array to display that card. And so you can see the first element of the array, which is the title, which is the name, which you can go back and see here, name. You can see how it puts it together. So it says here that's the title, the name. Then if we look at the description field and we go and hit a drop down again and we hit show mapping, it shows that that's mapped to the name field that's pulled out of the Adobe Sign JSON. And then these are other potential things. And you can see here is you start iterating through array elements like the message, the requester name, the modify date, and that kind of stuff. And you can see here, like if we expand that again and we go and we look at the mapping, you can see that that's actually popping down to the requester name. And that kind of gives you a good idea about how that actually works, so that if you decide you don't like how this card is laid out or you're looking for more information, you actually can kind of dig into this whole thing. Then you can say, oh, I don't like what this is giving me. So maybe I'll go back and I'll go into, say, the JSON profile for Adobe Sign All Details. And I'll look at this a little bit and see these are all the root object. These are all the objects that it's pulling. And then, so possibly at this point, you can see here, these are the different fields. And so it gives you just a really good idea of how it works. And I think that obviously modifying these is going to be nothing simple, but I think that it offers some really good opportunity to really get into it.